And then there was one. The Georgia Bulldogs come in at number 1 in our way too early top 25. And how could they not? Sure, the Bulldogs didn't get to have their three-peat like they all hoped. Alabama ruined that in the SEC championship game. But this is a team that has won 46 of their last 48 games. This is a team that returns tons and tons of talent in 2024. And this is a team that is going to be the national title favorite this season until someone can prove them wrong. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. We're so glad you could join us today to break down the Georgia Bulldogs, break down their schedule as they look to get back to the college football playoff. They get back to the national championship game. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below, including our website, thegridironexpert.com. Tons of exclusive content over there to help you get through this offseason. Because here at the Gridiron Expert, the season never dies. We are talking college football with you 24/7, 365, and we want you to become a part of it. We want you to become a part of our GE Nation. So subscribe, hit that notification bell, and check out everything down below, because the season's going to be here before we know it. So you take a look at Georgia, guys. I love this team. I really, really do. I mean, Kirby Smart, what he's done in Athens has been unbelievable. I mean, you can make the argument that Georgia is going to become, or maybe already is for some, the next dynasty. They won back-to-back national championships, were maybe a play away from making it a third. They lose to Alabama in the SEC championship game, but I think many would have picked them to win the whole playoff had they defeated Alabama and slipped in there. And they still beat Florida State 63-3 in the Orange Bowl. I know Florida State was playing with a skeleton crew, but look, 60-point win in a New Year's Six bowl game. I don't care who you're playing. That is pretty dang impressive. This year they've got Kirby Smart, of course, who's going to lead and anchor the defense. Always a very strong defense and one of the best defenses in the entire country. You've got Carson Beck returning as one of the better quarterbacks in the entire country. Trevor Etienne transfers in from Florida. They're rivaled, become one of the lead backs in that Georgia backfield. And as we mentioned, the defense always very, very strong. The schedule, of course, tougher than it was last year. We looked at Georgia's schedule last year and we're like, they're probably going to go undefeated. And I think everybody did. And they did go undefeated until that SEC championship game. This year, though, much more difficult. It's not, you don't glance at Georgia's schedule and go, cakewalk, lock it in, undefeated, 11-1. You can't. There are a lot of big games. To me, there's not a key stretch on Georgia's schedule. There's not a stretch of like 2 or 3 games that I'm concerned about. There's just a handful of games that I'm kind of concerned about. A lot of tough games on their schedule. So we'll break them down. First off, it's right out the gate. In week 1, they take on Clemson in Atlanta. Right in their backyard, to kind of a home game for Georgia, but a Clemson team that's certainly going to be no slouch. Yes, it's not the Clemson team that we've seen in years past. Yes, they still have a lot of things they've got to work on. The offense has not been nearly as good. Cade Klubnik has not been the quarterback we thought he would be, but maybe they've worked a lot on this offseason. Year 2 under Garrett Riley, a lot of talent coming back for the Tigers. They were in our way too early top 25. That game against Clemson, not going to be a cakewalk for the Bulldogs at all. It's going to be a great measuring stick for both these programs that have conference title aspirations and playoff aspirations, of course, the playoff expanding to 12 teams. Then you go on the road to Kentucky. Not really concerned about the Wildcats. Again, we're overlooking Tennessee Tech, of course. But obviously this is a team that is always pretty competitive in the SEC, has been under Mark Stoops, a perennial under him, a perennial bowl team, anywhere from a 7-9 win team. Georgia obviously annihilated them in Athens 51-13 last year, but this is a Kentucky team that in Lexington has kind of held their own against the Bulldogs in recent years. So mindful of that. The bye week comes at a big time because they get a week of rest and they travel to Tuscaloosa, a rematch of last year's SEC championship game, which Georgia lost 27-24. And they're facing a new-look Alabama team without Nick Saban. So Kalen DeBoer, his first year with the Crimson Tide, first year in the SEC. They lost tons of talent on both sides of the ball, but they did retain Jalen Milroe. So it's obviously going to be a completely different team. It's going to be a completely different style and culture down in T-Town, but Tuscaloosa is a very difficult place to play. Night game in Tuscaloosa, a very difficult place to play. And you look at this game, guys, and I'm not saying this defines Georgia's season at all, but you look at what's coming up after Alabama, the tough games that we were going to mention. At Texas, very, very difficult. At Ole Miss, who, yes, Georgia killed last year 52-17, but Ole Miss team that is loaded now on both sides of the ball, not just in returning talent, but what Lane Kiffin added to the transfer portal. This Alabama game is going to kind of set the tone for the rest of the year. And if Georgia were to lose in Tuscaloosa on September 28th, the margin of error becomes very, very slim the rest of the way, and there's still a lot of losable games on the schedule. No doubt about that. So that Alabama game is massive for so many different reasons for both these teams and their title hopes. But Georgia's got to be mindful because after Alabama, they take on Auburn and Mississippi State, back-to-back home games. That's great, right? I think Georgia's going to be favoring both those. But then they got to go to Austin, play a very good Texas team that was just a few plays away from making the national championship last year. Fell to Washington in the Sugar Bowl, that playoff semifinal. It's going to be very, very tough there, no doubt about it. They've got the quarterback play. Quinn Ewers with Carson Beck. It's going to be awesome to watch. The defense surely was going to get better and better as the year goes on for Texas, and they're going to be awesome in their first year in the SEC, welcoming the SEC and national title favorite to their house. Massive, massive game on the 19th. Then the bye week. They take on Florida and Jacksonville, world's largest outdoor cocktail party. They beat the Gators 43-20 last year, and the Gators, I'm afraid, not predicting anything now, but look like they're going to be a team that struggles once again in 2024. Then they go on the road to Ole Miss. We just mentioned that. Ole Miss team that's loaded on both sides of the ball. Offensively can hang with Georgia. If they can fix it up defensively, watch out. We could be in for a barn burner in Oxford. And then they got Tennessee. Yeah, the game's in Athens, but this is a Tennessee team that has a great quarterback. Nico Iamaleava, he's back. Stunned everybody in their bowl game over Iowa. Looks like the quarterback of the future for the Volunteers. And they're going to be an offense that once again can hang with the Bulldogs. Then UMass and Georgia Tech, who we're not too concerned about. You look at the schedule, guys, the games away from home are what's going to be tough for Georgia. And that's what's going to make or break the Bulldogs, right? The home games are really, really easy. Tennessee Tech, Auburn, Mississippi State, Tennessee, and UMass and Georgia Tech. Like the toughest home game, true home game that Georgia has is Tennessee. But the road games / neutral site games, Clemson, Kentucky, Alabama, Texas, Florida, Ole Miss, all of those games will not be played in Athens. Those are their toughest games. They get the kind of weak opponents coming to them, which is great. Beat up on them. Rest those starters. Flex your muscles. But it's what Georgia does away from home that's going to determine whether or not they win the SEC this year, whether or not they win the national championship this year. I think, obviously, this is a playoff team, right? They've got the best coach in college football currently. Nick Saban's now gone. Kirby Smart, I think, now takes the number one spot. And with him, I trust. Georgia's a playoff team. They expect to make the 12-team playoff, and it would be unfathomable to think they won't. But it's a matter of where are they seated there? Where are they seated in that playoff? Can they make a run to the national title? And some are going to argue, will they make it at all? They will. But will they make it at all with a very difficult schedule? Georgia's going to have to bring their A game every week. Unlike last year. Not saying they didn't, but last year's schedule was a cakewalk. They could sleepwalk through some of those games and still win by 20 or 30. That's not going to be the case this year, especially with the games away from home. The Bulldogs are the number one team in the country in my eyes until I'm proven otherwise, but there's a very good chance we could be proven otherwise when or if one of these teams on the road takes down the Bulldogs. So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. We will have 5 more schedule previews coming your way next week. We finished our top 25 teams, but we asked you, give us 5 more teams that you want to see. So stay tuned for that. We'll have 5 more next week, and then we'll be in April. We'll enter April with a brand new series, with a brand new content as we inch closer and closer to the start of not just prediction season, but the college football season as a whole. So stay tuned for that. You can do that by liking, commenting, subscribing, hitting that notification button so you don't miss out on any future content. You can do that by checking out everything down in the description, including our website, thegridironexpert.com. Check it all out. Become a member of our GE Nation. I promise you, you do not want to miss out on it. And once again, guys, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.
Yeah.